Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we start Aintree tomorrow, the Grand National meeting, and we're going to do 3 days of videos with analysis. And we'll start off with the first race tomorrow, the 2.5 mile Grade 1 Novice Chase. Now, I'm keen to take on Stage Star here. There's a couple of reasons. One, Paul Nicholls isn't very good here. His record here is quite poor, and Stage Star admittedly pulled up last year, but he also pulled up at Cheltenham, so I wouldn't totally count that as a negative for Stage Star. I know he's pulled up, but he'd also pulled up at Cheltenham, and he's changed that around by winning twice at Cheltenham since. So why do I want to take Stage Star on then? Well, he won at Cheltenham in the Turners. But the horse who finished second was Not Long Till May, a 40-1 shot. Mighty Potter was only third, Appreciate It fourth. James de Burle ran disappointingly. I mean, it wasn't the hardest of races if you take out the disappointing Mighty Potter, who's sadly no longer with us, and Appreciate It, who probably didn't stay the trip. And Appreciate It didn't really frank that form at Fairyhouse in the Willow Warm Gold Cup Novice Chase, when only third behind Flamebearer and Sir Gerhard. Mighty Potter fell, and that's when unfortunately he lost his life. But if you then say, okay, Mighty Potter doesn't win that, Appreciate It has to win that, in my opinion, to suggest that he is a 2.5 miler. And I just wonder whether he's not a 2.5 miler. And so we've got question marks over the fourth place. Mighty Potter was disappointing in third, hanging all over the place. That left Not Long Till May as the biggest danger to Stage Star. Well, Not Long Till May, if Not Long Till May was running here, would still go off a massive price. You know, would still go off 16s, 20s, 25s against Banbridge and St. Ouen. So I just wonder whether that form is that strong from Stage Star. You could also, if you really wanted to be picky, he beat That's Alright Gino the time before that, and That's Alright Gino actually pulled up at the Cheltenham Festival. I still think he's well handicapped, but there's just some question marks about the actual form of Stage Star. So I want to take him on with one of those two behind, St. Ouen or Banbridge. Now, Banbridge didn't go to the festival, which probably stands him in good stead. But his third at Fairyhouse, when beaten a long way by Mighty Potter and Gaillard de Menil, is that really Grade 1 form? I'm not so sure. I want to take them on with St. Ouen, who was definitely the best hurdler of these. If these all ran in a hurdle, St. Ouen finished fourth in a champion hurdle at Cheltenham. He finished fourth in a Grade 1 at Punchestown. He'd also finished third in the Matheson hurdle, and obviously he'd won a county hurdle. Would Banbridge finish fourth in a champion hurdle? I don't think he would. Would Stage Star? No. So I think the best hurdler here is St. Ouen. And he's just got to prove it over fences, and he's done all right over fences. I mean, he took a bit of time to get going. He was disappointing on his return when only second to Fildor. But then, since then, he went and won a Grade 1, beating Visionarian, who runs here, and Fildor. He then unseated too early on in the Irish Arkle, so we don't know how he would have gone, before finishing third last time in the Arkle at Cheltenham, behind El Fabiolo and John Bon. Well, both of those are much better than Stage Star and Banbridge. If either of those were in this race, they'd be a short price favourite. St. Ouen probably has done as well as he could by getting as close as he did to those. He was held up that day, came through late on to get up for third. I think he might sit quite close to Stage Star and try and use a bit of a turn of foot that I think he may possess that Stage Star possibly doesn't. And I just want to give Stage Star, I want to take him on with St. Ouen here, who's currently available at 100 to 30. And I think he's the better option in this race. We know JP likes winning races here. Yeah, and the form of Paul Nicholls, especially coming from Cheltenham to here, is just a concern. And I just think the best horse here may be St. Ouen. Moving on to the 220, the Juvenile Hurdle. I honestly believe Zenta wins this comfortably. I thought her first effort was very, very good when she won at, where was it? She won at Fairyhouse, having already won at Auteuil, and she then finished third to Lossiemouth and Gala Marceau. Now, both of those had finished first and second in a Grade 1 sin, or previously at Fairyhouse or Leopardstown. At Leopardstown, Lossiemouth is clearly the best juvenile around, and I actually think Zenta will be the second best juvenile around. I think that was a very good effort for only her second run, and fully expect her to beat all the British horses here. She gets some of the she gets the weight allowances against most of her rivals. Greyvow and Parapui, she doesn't, obviously, because they're also fillies. But yeah, I totally expect Zenta to win this, and I think she's priced accordingly. She's 6-4, but I think 6-4 is spot on. I'd be just as confident in Zenta here as I was Lossiemouth at Cheltenham. Moving on to the Aintree Bowl. Now, this is the race that has caused me the most headaches, and I've decided I have picked one who I'm going to go for. Now, the horse I'm going for is a Hoisinor, even with his jumping issues. I actually thought he'd jumped pretty well up until falling at Cheltenham, and the fact that he's not got round could just mean that he hasn't quite had as hard a race as some of the others. Now, we've got to remember, Brave Man's Game has actually been beaten by a Hoisinor twice at Aintree in this meeting, over hurdles and in the over fences last year. And Paul Nicholls blamed Cheltenham last year for why Brave Man's Game ran so poorly. Well, he didn't even run at Cheltenham last year. I know he turned up and then had to be pulled out, but this year he's run and he's performed brilliantly, finishing second to Galopin Des Champs. But he was out on his legs at the end. It was only 27 days ago. I think he's given everything at Cheltenham, and this may just come a bit too soon, and we may find that he just suffers a little bit late on, or even during the race, because I think that will have taken so much out of him. And they thought just going to Cheltenham last year took a lot out of him. This race at Cheltenham, the Gold Cup, will have taken more out of him this year, so I'd be very wary of Brave Man's Game personally. Shishkin, yes, he steps up in trip, seemed to have all sorts of jumping issues and did really well to finish second last time. He's probably had just as a harder race, to be honest, and we may find that Shishkin just doesn't quite hit the heights as he had done earlier in the season, especially at Ascot. Conflated probably gave his all at Cheltenham when he was third, although he was well beaten by Galopin Des Champs and Brave Man's Game. He still would have given enough of his running for a long way to have just left a little bit of a mark. A Plus Tard, I don't know whether we can really trust that he was still there when he was pulled up. He pulled up quite quickly after being hampered by a faller. But I think he was hampered by a Hoisinor, wasn't he? Yeah, just would have wanted to see him finish his race off. He may well, stop again, which would be a concern, and Garlosh shouldn't be good enough. So I'm going for a Hoisinor to make all of the running, to make it 3 from 3 at Aintree. 3 from 3, or might be 4 from 4 even. 1, 2, it'd be 2 from 3, sorry. 3 from 4. He got beat by Noble Yates and Dashel Drescher earlier on in the season. That wouldn't have been the main target. Cheltenham and Aintree would have been the targets, this Aintree, and I think he will go really close from the front. So a Hoisinor is the one I'm going to go for here, and you can currently get 11-2 about a Hoisinor. Moving on to the 3:30, Constitution Hill wins it. Pretty boring. So he's 1-7. If you want to put him in the double with one of my other ones, maybe Zenta, then go for it. So let's move on to the Fox Hunters. I really like one here, actually. And it is Famous Claremont. This is over 2 mile 5, whereas his previous race in the Fox Hunters was over 3 mile 2. If it was over 2 mile 5, Famous Claremont, I think, wins the Fox Hunters at Cheltenham. Now, obviously, that's a bit of a silly statement to make because it wasn't over 2 mile 5. It was over 3 mile 2. But he dropped back here. He jumps fine. He travelled brilliantly at Cheltenham. Just didn't get home. He completely emptied at the finish. Dropping back to this 2.5 mile trip. Will Biddick rides these fences well. Yeah, I'm quite keen on Famous Claremont to run a really big race here. He's got the tongue tie on just in case that did affect him late on. But he travelled so well last time that you would imagine he should travel really well again, and this time should get home. Famous Claremont is currently 11 to 2. No, too small a book, mate. 11 to 2. Ladbrokes, yep. We'll say 11 to 2 for Famous Claremont. As you know, we don't talk about Bet365 odds because they're not available. Moving on to the 440, and I've got one in this that I like, and I highlighted him actually before his last race. He was one I was watching, and that was Hatcher. Hatcher for Skelton's form is so weird. 3 wins on the bounce, April to July 2021. He's then been woefully beaten and massive prices, failed to finish in his last 5, and he dropped to a mark of 130. Well, he's finally got his act together, and he completed last time out. He completed and got beat by Black Jerry, who has since come to Plumpton and won the Sussex Champion Chase, and Freya Darm. Now, Freya Darm was regarded as being ridiculously well handicapped for the Skeltons. Hatcher has run a screamer to finish 3rd behind 2 very, very well handicapped horses, and that's why there is a bit of a blue line about him. I think he goes really close, and it's kind of, I think he could be one of these Favre horses that Dan Skelton won the county with. You don't think he's the one, you think 3rd time lucky is, that's why Harry's on 3rd time lucky, but actually they win it with their 2nd string in inverted commas. Yeah, I really like Hatcher. Is there a well handicapped horse in this race? Probably not. I think they've all done their winning and gone up in the handicap as expected. I mean, Dancing on My Own is still higher rated. Grey Diamond has now won and gone up in the handicap. 3rd time lucky, we roughly know his mark. The Last Day is the interesting one because he won it last year, but very disappointing this year. So yeah, Hatcher at 12s I think is a great bet, to be honest. I think he will go really, really close in this race. You know, he's so well handicapped, as I pointed out here. And also 3 wins on the bounce, April to July. Well, it's April, so he's going to get his first win here, then probably go to maybe Sandown or a summer track, maybe Market Raisin, and pick up another win. So yeah, Hatcher is the one I like in the Close Brothers Red Rum Handicap Chase. And then finally onto the bumper. I'm just going to have another quick look at it. It might be one that I go, I haven't got a clue. It looks a good race. I mean, there's some really smart horses. Ici La Reine looked impressive when winning. I think Ici La Reine is related to Le Bagois. Willie Mullins won it last year with Ashro Diamond, who obviously has gone on to be a very, very good horse. Just having a quick look. Me Too, please. The Irish have won this the last twice. What do the Irish have this year? Law Ella, She's a Fine Wine. Dysart Enos, where are they from? Willie's best one is supposedly Williamstown Dancer, and I don't like that one at all. Yeah, I'm just going to leave this race alone, to be honest. Maybe Jolie Coeur Hélène. Jolie Coeur Hélène, am I saying that good? I think I am. Finished 2nd. This is her first run. Who did she finish 2nd to? Jasuba. I mean, JP and Willie know what they're doing. Yeah, let's have a small bet on Jolie Coeur Hélène. And you have to say it like that with that French accent. 9 to 2 about Jolie Coeur Hélène. So a quick recap. Saint Ouen, I think Stage Star's form is suspect. You can get 100 to 30 back to Saint Ouen. Really keen on Zenta. Fully expect Zenta to win that tomorrow. I'm going to Hoisinor to win again at Aintree in this meeting. Brave Man's Game has been beaten the last twice at Aintree in at this meeting. Constitution Hill wins. Famous Claremont should really appreciate the drop back in trip. Hatcher is a big price. Finally ran into a bit of form and bumped into 2 very, very well handicapped horses last time. And the final one is Jolie Coeur Hélène for Willie Mullins and JP McManus in the last. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. I do have a couple, especially for the last race tomorrow. I say tomorrow, I mean Friday.